take great delight in doing this work because our youngest kids really are our sweetest, just the most innocent and the most pure because life is more so unknown to them maybe than for a human being at any other age. And when I think about how innocent they are, and how sweet and how pure, and it's such a great honor. It's a tremendous honor to be able to raise them, to just have a place in their life, or even just to have one encounter with them. It's such an honor. It's a gift for us. And I think, many parents just, stuck in the daily grind of, having to get things done, and just really sometimes all you can do is just keep your child alive, and that's it. Sometimes there are days like that. And I know for myself, there were years where all I could do was just breathe. And so, I do very well understand that. And maybe our children do give us, their existence gives us an additional strength to show up for them in a certain way. And sort of, their existence gives us a certain aliveness, even just connecting with them in a moment, right? Talking to them when they come to you for a moment, and talking to them, it's like after that you have a realization in your mind that I have to do this. I have to move forward. I have to go on. I have to be in the moment. I have to bask in the gratitude. I have to bask in the appreciation for life, and I have to do it. I really just have to do it. And maybe that's one of the great gifts of a child, that just their existence alone is an inspiration, because they're so pure and their eyes are just, they're just here. Their eyes are so innocent, and them just being here, knowing, so little, and us just wanting to give them everything and do everything for them. Like, that's enough, them just being. And I just want to remind you that we are all worthy of that. What we want to give our children, just for them being alive. We are all worthy of that. We each deserve the best life as well, just for the sake of being alive. We don't have to do anything to earn that, and even when you think about your child, like the things that you want for your child, despite maybe they're older and they become more conditioned, or they behave in unpleasant ways, and maybe even your youngster behaves in ways that you find unpleasant, right? But it doesn't change what you want for your child. And this is I think such a beautiful thing to understand this, because this is what anchors us, in ourselves. It's almost like it becomes truth. Like, this is what I want for my child. I want my child to have their physical needs met, and no matter how they behave, I want to be a source of emotional stability for them. I want them to have their emotional needs met, even if they are raging nonstop, right? And this is like the same thing that we should, right, if we don't already, hold true for ourselves, right? Like, I would want my emotional needs met. even if I was like the worst creature on earth. And maybe, when we come closer to this truth for ourselves, it then becomes like, oh, okay, the people in my life that are really close to me, not by choice maybe, or maybe the people in my life that I don't like so much, they seem to behave in ways that are extremely unpleasant or very off-putting to me. I might find disgusting or repulsing, But they too are just like me in the sense that, I would want my emotional needs met, no matter how horrific or how unpleasant or how bad I behave or how bad somebody thinks I am. And I think about the people in my life, and I know psychologically we can, or intellectually, like we can know, right? We know in our head, okay, when somebody behaves that way, or behaves in a way that's less than ideal, maybe to me, right? It's because they're having a hard time inside. And we know that's true for a child, right? Seeing it in an adult can be, like knowing that to be true in an adult can be a lot harder than it is to know to be true in a child. Especially like maybe if you're dealing with this and you have a parent that has a lot of trauma, maybe is mentally ill, and but you realize there's just a part of them that is just so like maybe they spew poison, when they open their mouth. Like it's like they're just really cruel, and it's like they can't be nice. It's like they don't have like a kind bone in their body. We know from psychology that when behavior manifests like that, it's because in inward there's a great struggle. And that struggle, having changed my behavior drastically, right? Like having experienced significant changes in my own behavior, I've come out of the conditioned energy that this body really holds, that is attached to that kind of behavior. And so I've seen, wow, the body really becomes conditioned in this way. And so, like, I understand, how a body becomes conditioned in a way where it behaves like, a certain way. It holds a certain pattern. It literally becomes like part of the fiber of your being. And I often wonder about the people close to my life who I've seen, like, behave in ways that are, full of rage, or just really cruel at times. And I know that cruelty has become their body's pattern, right? That's just sort of the energy that's how it plays in their body. But there's another part of me that is still working to be able to hold that, as in feel safe, right? So to be able to feel safe, as in like not become dysregulated, to stay in my body and not jump, not get triggered, not jump to like saying something, or to shouting, or like to getting entangled in the mess, right? Because it really takes two to tango. And maybe that's true for everything, any scenario. And so, one thing that I have really had the opportunity to do since I've come home is is nervous system integration, as in like a lot of fears will come up now that I'm back home and I haven't been here in like 20 years, nor have I had a relationship with my parent that lives here. And so one thing that I've been able to do is really like a lot of the fears, even like the rooted fears, because this is my deepest rooted fear, like this trauma. And so the fears that have come up and that come up, I have the chance, like my nervous system has the chance just to really, be able to hold them more and more. And it's not an easy process. It takes time. It's definitely not something that happens overnight, and you don't want it to, because the body is not used to this, right? And it's a lot for it to hold. It's a lot for like the trauma in the body, right? The fear in the body is a lot for it to process, right? And it's trying to do that as best as it can at the best pace that it can do. Like, and once you really go through this process of healing, you actually see how much like the body is trying to adjust. Like it's the biggest adjustment that the body goes through, like truly. Like energetically inside, you feel different. You feel like vibrations and sensations, and you feel energy moving in your body. You feel when your nervous system becomes dysregulated, you become more and more sensitive to that, because your body, like from being so dysregulated right now, is like coming closer and closer. Let's say this is equilibrium, right? It's coming closer and closer. So the closer and closer it comes, the more subtle, right? The more subtle you're going to be able to be aware. Like your awareness is going to grow more subtle about like, when exactly you become dysregulated. And the dysregulation may also, right, because you're more aware, right, and your body has like healed so much and integrated so much, right, and now is able to hold more fear, right, you become less dysregulated, like overall, usually, but sometimes there's like an era in your life where you just go slow, and you rest a lot. There's just a lot of rest. There's a lot of like gazing at sunsets, and it's truly okay to remember that it's okay to rest, and actually rest is fundamental, because we can't really see what's going on in our body. The only thing that we can know is when it lets us know that it needs to rest. And the way that it will let us know is that through feeling, right? It will, like, we'll stay in bed longer, or we just find ourselves like, sitting on the couch, resting on the couch all day even, or just sitting outside, on the porch or in the backyard, on a chair, on the grass, or on a mat, and just looking at the sky. And there are things that are happening in our body that we can't quite place, and that we're not even aware of, and all we know is like maybe we feel like energetically different inside, and so all we know is rest is happening. And sometimes when we become conditioned to be a certain way, we fight rest. Right? We fight it, and we trudge through our day-to-day, but it certainly has consequences. And one of the biggest benefits of rest is that you get to heal. You get to heal yesterday, as in put everything that happened on the shelf emotionally, and rewiring of the brain also happens during rest, during sleep, and perhaps rest as well. And the body goes through a lot of like processes when we rest, and so it makes sense that when we are changing, right, on a very drastic, significant level, especially like when there are big events in our life, just, divorce or loss, separation, death, bankruptcy, change of location, right? Like sudden changes. Of course, the body will have to adjust because the mind has to adjust, and the mind is connected to the nervous system, right? Which is connected to every function in the body, right? And so, what's really helpful here, right, is if you go with what you feel. And sometimes going with what you feel will mean quitting your job and not working for a period of time, accruing debt, right? Sometimes we go through these things in life, and you'll see, like, okay, like as I'm not doing that thing, as I'm going without that thing, there's also like fear. There's also fear in here about, who am I without a job, or, what if I go broke or bankrupt, and you see also that your nervous system is getting better at holding that fear as well. And sometimes if you are very lucky, or if you have a great purpose or mission in this world, and maybe that great purpose or mission is really being the best mother for your child, you will find that there's a period in your life where there's just significant rest, as in like significant, like all of your life's fear is being healed. And you go through a period that feels pretty empty and barren, or just really, really different than anything that you've known. And that's pretty much a gift, because during that period, everything that you once knew to be true about yourself is stripped away. And you get to really see clearly who you are not, right? Because those things, fears and thoughts, really come to the surface, and you get a chance to really look at them and question them and be like, oh my gosh, was this like what I was believing this whole time? And so very often in life, right, we know who we are by who we are not, and who we are not just becomes cleared away from our energetic system, from our brain, right, from our mind. It becomes cleared away from our body, like this mistaken confusion that we've been believing about ourselves, right? Like like a thought here that plays, like, oh my gosh, like something around the nature of like, what is that person gonna think about you? And you're like, really, this has been playing in here, right? Like, is that really true to me? Does it really matter? Do I really care what this person thinks about me? And let's say maybe the answer is yes. To be okay with that too. Because sometimes that's the fear that our body is trying to hold, right? That we are actually afraid of something, and that's perfectly okay. We're human, right? Fear is a part of, the human experience, and it's okay to have absolutely any fear. Any fear. It's okay to have a fear of a cockroach. It's okay to have a fear of your mother-in-law. It's okay to have a fear of your own mother. It's okay to have a fear of your brother. It's totally okay. And you also have to understand, like many of us are dealing with the nervous system of a 4-year-old child, and that 4-year-old child was pretty like conditioned at an early age, right, to survive a certain way, to be vigilant in a certain way, to pay attention to certain things, right? And so if you had to really read the room when you were when you were younger, right? If you had a parent that you had to emotionally take care of, gosh, you know, like you were just absorbing their emotions and their energies and regulating for them all the time. All the time. And they didn't know it, and you didn't know it. But what's so beautiful now is that, you know, you're older and wiser, and once you realize that, you get to do the work of really healing. And what happens when you heal is that you really reclaim a lot of the energy that you have been giving away. You've been, your own energy that you haven't been using for yourself. You've been allowing other people to use. You've been using for the sake of other people to heal themselves. And it's a tremendous amount of energy. It's most of your energy that actually you've been giving away unknowingly. And so that's the really beautiful thing about healing, is that we don't know how we are broken until we heal. Because the what's restored is so natural. It's just a natural equilibrium. And what's restored is a natural equilibrium. And it's literally just like how you feel inside. And you can't really, it's not something that you like decide, like, okay, when I'm around my mother-in-law again, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna say this or do that or behave differently. No, it just happens so organically in the moment. It's not planned. But that's how you know you've done the real work, because you're not trying to manage yourself anymore, right? And you know, this unspoken work is or this unseen work, right? It's totally like an internal experience. It's like the energy that I carry, the presence that I carry, how I feel in my body, how I feel inwardly. This is what I carry into my life, into every waking moment. This is what I carry into every interaction. It's this right in here. And so, of course, you know, when we work on this, every moment of life is different. It changes, including the moment where we're just sitting, you know, by ourselves, perfectly alone. Even this moment is different. And so, the single most important thing that I would recommend is finding time for yourself, even if that's 5 minutes, even if that's I have to slip into the closet for 2 minutes away from everybody, away from my family, while I'm washing the dishes, right? Finding time for myself, because the truth is we're doing so many things on a daily basis, but we don't actually make the conscious effort to be present, right? So we're brushing our teeth, right? Look inward. We're driving, right? Or let's say something else, maybe not driving, right? Or even driving, right? Because that's a time where like you really need to be present, or you should be present, right? Any kind of task or activity that you're doing with your body, right? The goal is really just to be here. It's to be present, right? It's to be in my body. And if you're first starting out, you know, if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, gosh, I don't even know what it means to be present. Just find time for yourself, right? Wake up early for 5 minutes. If you have more time, 30 minutes, right? Whatever time you have, and meditate. You know, sit on your balcony, on your porch, in your backyard. Just sit and be with yourself and do nothing else. Because, you know, life has really conditioned us to pay attention to everything else but ourselves. And so we need to now make a conscious effort to return home to ourselves. And I just want you to know that this habit, right? This habit of like paying attention to everything else. Like we've just been trained to do this, right? So our mind just works this way now, our body. We're just this way now. But it's taken years. It takes years for, something like to become conditioned, into the mind. It takes a prolonged period of time, right? Or it could take shorter, but maybe there's like there's a traumatic time in your life, right? Per se, but it has taken time to become, part of your conditioning, part of your brain, part of your neurocircuitry, right? So in that same sense, it's going to take time for it to be rewired. It's going to take time for it to change, right? And one of the things that is required of you in order for it to change is to sit with the fear. Is to just give some attention to that, to just see it. It literally deepens you into yourself. It deepens your presence into yourself, and you're like, wow, I didn't even know. Like you start to feel differently inside, but it's almost like you have a new depth in your being, and you will actually experience this, like where there's like more and more energy, right? Like more and more space, because the energy, the more and more you sit with yourself, right? And the more like, these things are kind of cleared, right? The more and more you sit with fear, the fear can be released from your body, right? So you will find that as the fear is released from your body, it's almost like there's more space internally. You'll actually physically experience this. And in that space, right, your presence just gets to take up that space. And that's really what presence does, because the way that energy works is, right, it's like, your presence grows stronger and stronger, right? It grows greater, right? Your presence in your body, your presence in your mind, your presence in your being, and the greater it grows, right? The smaller the fear grows, the smaller the ego grows, the smaller the identity or the mind, becomes. And so there's a bit of conscious effort that is required, and if you have, right, and even if you don't have a lot of time, whatever time you have, right, let's say like you have a newborn, right, and you have zero time, you have negative time, right, even in the moments where you're washing their bottles, or in the moments where you're feeding them, right, and let's say you're exhausted to the point where you're depleted, right, just to be present, because that will help you and restore you more than anything, right? Our body is in a state of ease and calm when we are present. It's in a state of peace, like we are at peace, And just to remind yourself, right? Because again, like the pattern and the habit of the brain is quite different, right? It's gonna want to do something or stay busy, at least in the mind, right? But see that, right? And get better. You will get better at holding that, right? Holding that sort of like that restless energy. It will be released. Because we have been habituated over, like, gosh, I don't know, lifetimes, at least decades, right? Some of us from a very early age, we've just lost sight of ourselves. And a good way to know, if you relate to that, right, is by, like, if you feel like, I don't know what it's like to be present. I think, there were times when I was younger, when I was a child, that I remember like being present in my mind, in my own body, in my mind, which is my body, right? And then, when I came into high school, my second year, I really started struggling to pay attention in class. And I think that was like really the onset of my ADHD. And so it's been 20 plus years, it was actually 20 years later that I had a spiritual awakening, and I was sitting on the balcony, and the spiritual awakening was basically an experience where all the noise in my head just completely stopped. It was gone for like a few hours. And not only that, but like my entire mind was gone, like my entire sense of like, my identity, it was gone. And so for a few hours there was just utter bliss. And in that moment, right, maybe the ego like totally collapses. And there were like a series of like events that sort of led up to it, like difficult, like events like where my things that didn't really go according to my ego. And so maybe it just had no cards left or whatever, and it just collapsed. It just, it was just gone for a few hours. And in that moment, there was just eternal bliss. And after a few hours, the whole ego death process really started, where all of my trauma, all of my life's pain, all of my life's suffering started surfacing. It seemed like for the first time, it was like millions and millions of things. A dozen maybe were like bigger moments, bigger things, and the rest were just millions of things every moment. Then my nervous system, because life is going on, right, and it's just producing fear, right? It's about everything, a new thought, a new fearful thought every moment, right? According to like, oh, okay, like the windows, closed, or like, how am I gonna, I don't know how am I gonna breathe, or the bathtub hasn't been cleaned. It's, I've just been sitting here meditating, and I'm not cleaning, and so just like, just all of your fears, you get to see them. They come up to the surface, and it's that's the process of ego death. So that's the process of like, concentrated 3-4 years where you just sit with all your fears, and you feel them, right? And you allow your nervous system to really kind of feel safe again and reverse itself. But it happens on its own timeline, and it happens in its own way. And this process looks different for every single person too. So it's just I don't know, it's just part of life, and I think it happens for everybody in different ways. I think so. So anyway, yeah, it's like this concentrated period where you're not doing much else, and you really just like heal. And so yeah, after that, I've been coming back to work slowly. And still, there's like a tremendous amount of rest that I require, because my body is acclimating to a new normal, and there's like very significant like cell turnover that's very rapid, that's happening like every moment, and some sometimes more than others, and during those times I have to nourish and just rest, and so basically, however this process happens for you, right, this healing process happens for you, it's a very sacred time in your life where you realize, you actually start to realize something is happening. Don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it. But also the fact that, you have no idea what's happening, that's also a relief too, because it kind of still allows you like the naturalness and flow of life to kind of feel like, oh, what do I want to do today? Maybe I want to go to the library. Maybe I want to go for a walk. I do want to cook something, nutritious or comforting for myself. There's a real beauty about life and not knowing. And healing really is the unlearning and undoing of a lot of it's just the unlearning of a lot of stuff that, you know, we've picked up that we didn't even know. Like our subconscious mind picked it up along the way, kind of used it, right? Like in its defense of its own fear, and that's the stuff that it plays here all the time. And there's such a peace, you know, the more and more you heal, the more and more inner peace there is, the less and less noise there is in the mind, the more moments of peace there are, the more clarity there is, right? So if you really struggled with you know, making decisions before, if you really struggled with like, oh, what should I do, or even my daily routine, right? Like I never got my routine down right? But it's like almost like when I stopped trying, that things like literally, I mean, you know, the most relaxed routine I had was during my awakening process, where I would meditate all day, and then naturally my body would come in after like 4 hours or something and take a shower, or it would cook something, and then it would take a shower, and then it would sit on the couch inside, right, and eat while it would watch more videos pertaining to the same, you know, topic of meditation, you know, spiritual awakening, you know, that kind of stuff. And so, and then later at night I would go to sleep, and that was the most relaxed routine I had. It was like the time in my life where I felt the best. And I feel like now I'm also coming into a routine slowly, after not having one, especially for like the last not having one all this year, because I was ill for a few months, and I've really just been trying to get better this year. And this year, like, was really you know, it's the one that sharpened me the most, I think, really, because it was the most unexplainable experience in my life so far. The one that I thought I'd, you know, the one that I would, you know, thought I'd at least be able to handle, you know. And there was great fear associated with it, and great healing that needed to take place, and still like healing and integration that's still happening from that, you know, from that event. So, you know, every year sort of is like a leveling up and an upgrade. But you know, this year really showed me like who I became too, because I'm back home now, and it just seems like I'm back home, right, with the parent that I never had a relationship with, always a very difficult one if I did, and I also became severely ill, and I was alone, you know, and so all these things, like, you know, physically alone, and physically alone during, and also psychologically, mentally, and emotionally alone during, you know, the most physically challenging, you know, bodily time, you know. It's, you know, I guess when you are ready for something, then it happens. And life really only gives you what you can handle. And so, and that goes, like, you know, to be true for everything, right? My body is getting ready for the next phase of my life. It's been doing that for the last 4 years, and I've been sitting here and waiting patiently, and not patiently at times. But something in me knows, like, okay, you know, it's gonna happen. Everything's gonna happen when I'm ready. And there's a really great era ahead, a very beautiful, progressive, I don't know what you would call it, Renaissance era, or just a really beautiful decade that's coming up in my life, and my body is getting ready for it, because I myself don't know what is about to come, and maybe that's a good thing, because I'd probably be scared unbelievably. just leaving it to my body, because my body knows what it's doing. It's doing the work. Every moment it's doing like tremendous work, and I really thank it for that. And so here I am, like slowly returning to work, slowly returning home, here at home. This is my mother's house where I grew up. And it's interesting that I've really come here to finish off the healing. Like, this is 2025 is year 9, as in the year of the snake, and the snake clears out everything. It clears out everything for the new year. And this life for me was, this year for me was one big clearing out. The last 4 years have been one big clearing out, but this year was, I remember it was like download after download. That was during the summer. That was when I was like getting over my illness. And it just felt like, all this information was coming out of nowhere, but it wasn't like tangible. I couldn't see the information or actually have any idea what it was, but I knew that it was just coming into my brain, into my being. I didn't know where it was coming from, but this would happen like day after day for months, like all summer. Right? And I was ill during the spring, and I was getting better during the summer, and during the fall is when I the end of the summer is when I joined the gym again, and I'm still trying to heal, both physically and mentally, just from not just the illness, but also mentally from life. I'm still closing out my 4-year healing, intensive healing process. So we can hold so much, and when we feel safe, when our nervous system is restored, we can hold a lot, and way more, than we ever imagined, because there was a part of us before that was like, had a very limited, it was fear-based. And so maybe that's the same part that's like, wow, like, I didn't know I could do that, But when you heal, everything just feels normal. It's like, oh, okay, you don't really think about it. Because the body, has processed the trauma, it's processed the fear, it's processed the difficult event. And, I've always, actually I didn't, but I've, discovered in recent years that, and also through my illness, I discovered that the body is capable of healing itself, right? And that we are capable of healing it too, just through our connection from our mind to our body, like using that, just being present here in the body and visualizing the healing. And things like talking to our water, and talking to our body, talking to our food even. So I've really discovered that, although I've heard about it before, I never really maybe believed it or took an interest in it, because maybe I didn't believe it, or just didn't take an interest in it, I don't know. But yeah, we are more powerful than we know. And I think life is really just discovering that power. It's discovering that power like all the time, right? Every moment is for that. Every moment is for liberation, right? It's liberation as in like from the shackles or the chains that I didn't even know that I was wearing. It's freedom in ways that you didn't even know you were bound. And so I think that's what this life is for. It's for freedom. It's for inner freedom, which leads to inner peace. And when you meet people and they're so alive and calm, and they exude a certain kind of energy, right? Many times it's because they've found freedom from the shackles and the chains that they once wore, and that they once were. And coming out of that makes you so alive. And that's why, like, this contrast, right, this play of this journey of being bound and then being free, this journey is it's really special. It's truly special, because it just really carves like a new depth in you, a new aliveness, a new vibrance. It's like a new magic. It's like a new magic about you. And, you know, things on the outside could be just as difficult or challenging as before, or even more, maybe. But you have changed so much, to the point where you find joy in the suffering. Right? Not only have you overcome like the fear and the frustration, right? But there are moments where you find like joy, you find deep joy in it, right? And it's not that you welcome it, but when you experience it in the moment, you find joy, you feel joy. And I think that's really when we reach a level of a mastery, I think that's the case. So I don't know, this life is so mysterious. Like, this journey is truly it's very unknown. Like, we know very little about it. You know, why and where things are going. You know, we don't really know anything. So we're just kind of here, and that's why being present is really the only thing that we have. Yeah, it's really the only thing that we have.